Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Hit the Bid here on October 19th. This is Ty Robbie here with your Week 42 Market Watch. Today we're going to run through our charts and see what happened across the markets in the last week and take a look at what opportunities are waiting for us as we move into Week 42. So let's jump right in here and get started. Now, before we dive too deep into our charts, we did have some big news kind of shaking up the cattle market late last week. On Thursday, we saw President Trump and his team coming out and discussing inflation. We did see that they have been making good progress attacking the inflation issue, except the fact that beef prices still remain elevated. He did go on to say that him and the government are looking into ways to bring the cost of beef down, whether that's through a deal or any other sort of solution. We still have yet to know. We'll have to wait and see what else comes out of what comes off the newswire here going out into the next week. We don't have a whole lot of information or details, so until then, we're just going to have to be on the lookout for any new updates regarding it. But until then, all we can do is really trust the charts here and trade what's in front of us. So let's jump right in here and see what happened. Last week, we did see this December live contract jumping out to a nice strong start, rallying for the first 4 days of the week, pushing above our prior week's Friday, rallying right up into new all-time highs, printing there at 248.30 on Thursday, before we did see that big breakdown there on Friday. We did see price trading about $5 to $6 lower here as that sold off on Friday, giving back all of the prior week's gains and closing down there at 242. At the moment here, technically speaking, this big picture uptrend still remains intact. We have higher highs and higher lows. This is just kind of at the moment, just kind of a minor pullback over the past 2 weeks of rallies that we've seen here, as this market has picked up about $16 here over the prior 2 weeks before that big breakdown here on Friday. At the moment, we are still trading here above a lot of our major levels. We got some key levels that can be offering support here anywhere between 241 and 243, as well as our rising moving averages coming up here to support price from below. Now, with that big breakdown here we saw on Friday, we could still see volatility be elevated in this cattle market, so look for some wide ranges to continue trading. At the moment, this has kind of given us a little bit of opportunity to reduce and wait and see what else there is to be said about this cattle market. But technically speaking, this big picture uptrend still remains strong and healthy. We'll have to wait and see how this market reacts early this week. If we do start to get some continued offers down here below 241.40, which was Friday's low, we could see this thing push back down here into our major moving averages between this 20 and 50-day moving averages. We do have some key levels all the way down here to 236.5, which we are seeing this 50-day moving average climb up into. So we could be seeing some good support step down into here as well. At the moment, we don't expect to see this thing break down. It's very uncommon for markets to come off of all-time highs to new lows, so not really expecting any major downside. Like I said, though, we could see volatility remain elevated in some wide ranges here as this market kind of digests this recent news. It's going to have to come down here and look for some buyer support, kind of see where this market responds and what kind of areas we can be looking for the bulls to try and turn this thing back around. At the very least, we'd like to see this market kind of digest and balance out. And from there, we can kind of look and see if there's going to be any good breaking points to the downside or if this market's going to find some support and continue this big picture uptrend. We still have this uptrend intact, and we still expect to see the bulls support this thing and carry it back up towards those all-time highs. Just going to have to digest some of this recent news and see how the market responds to it. So in the meantime, we're just going to kind of slow play it early this week, see how this market responds. Any continued breakdowns here below 241 could see a pullback, try and find some support. We want to see this market balance out before we jump back into the long side if we did reduce any positions here. At the moment here, though, we still are expecting to see this market get bought back up and continue pushing back up into those all-time highs. We're just going to have to wait and see how this market responds early this week, and we'll just have to keep updated here as we go throughout the week on closing comments. If we do get immediate turnaround here back above 243, we could see this thing press right back up there towards 248 and potentially new all-time highs. But like I said, let's just kind of slow play this thing and see how this market responds early this week. Next up, November feeders having a nice rally early last week. Quiet day on Monday before seeing that new all-time high print there at 382.80 on Tuesday. Then Wednesday and Thursday's action kind of consolidating right there around the 380 level before the big break on Friday. We did get that gap down with that market pushing all the way down into that limit lower, losing $9.25 on the day, finishing there at 371.70. Like that live cattle market here at the moment, we still have this big picture uptrend remaining intact, and so we expect to see this market kind of pull back here and try and find some buyer support. We still have some plenty good support levels all the way down here from 363 up into this prior high at 367.5. From there, we also have these rising moving averages here at the 20 and 50-day averages, which we should see buyers step in and try and support here as well. Big picture uptrend still remains intact. We did have about a $25 rally over the last 2 weeks here, pushing up in a new all-time high. So this could just be a pullback here in the near term before finding more support. We do expect to see the bulls step in and offer some support. With that big break we did see on Friday, expect to see volatility remain elevated. Any offers below 371.70 could see continued selling pressure down here towards this 20-day moving average and potentially down here towards the 50. We want to see this market, see how this market responds early this week. If we can see it sort of balance out here early and find some levels to trade around, could be providing some good opportunities for the buyers to step back in and push this market back up towards those highs. Like I said, big picture uptrend still remains intact. It's very rare for markets to come off of an all-time high to go down and make new lows. So we could see this thing continue to press down here below Friday's low, but we should see this market try and balance out and find some order here before turning back up and heading back towards those all-time highs. The uptrend remains intact. We'll just have to stay in touch here on closing comments throughout the week and see how the situation develops. But as technically speaking, uptrend still remains intact. This dip could offer a good buying opportunity as long as we can sit back and wait for it to balance out, digest some of this recent news before it can get back into gear and take this market back to those all-time highs. So once again, slow play this cattle market here, both feeder and fat markets. We want to slow play this thing and see how it reacts early this week. We should see some support stepping in at some point early and see if we can find some spots to at least trade around here going forward. One thing with both of these markets is that bulls need to continue to defend this 50-day moving average. If we break this trend line and this 50-day moving average, as well as this 50-day here right around the 355.5 mark in this feeder market and this trend line here, we could see this thing start to press lower. But like I said, we still have a lot of room to go to get there, and very rarely do we come off of all-time highs to go make new lows, so not really expecting that to happen. Just look for some wide ranges early this week while this thing kind of digests the news and balances out. But we should see the bulls try and step in and support this thing, and we'll just have to wait and see if there's any more news coming out of the White House about any sort of information regarding any more price controls. So that's all we got for the feeder market and live cattle market. Just slow play this thing early this week. Wait and see how this thing reacts to that news coming off the weekend, and we'll see you guys on for closing comments to see if there's any way we can trade around it going forward throughout the rest of the week. Just have to wait and see how this market responds. Next up, December corn futures with a nice rally last week. We did see a little bit of downside early with that market pushing down here below 410, briefly probing that low from the 1st of October. Nice response here by the bulls, sending this thing all the way back up towards the 425 mark there on Friday at the high before settling there at 423. At the moment, this market fails to get any sort of momentum either way. We are seeing a lot of range-bound conditions here as we are not respecting these major moving averages, and we are seeing good support down here around 410 on multiple occasions over the last few months, and resistance up here around 430 and this gap from the 4th of July. At the moment, corn prices look pretty sticky here. Not really expecting any major directional moves. Look for this thing to continue churning and chopping sideways here in between this $4.10 range and $4.30 range. So look for more sideways action here. If the bulls are able to take this thing and close that gap and get a close back here above the 4.33 mark, or the bears are able to close down here below their prior week's low at 409.25, we could see a directional move. But we still are seeing corn prices remain sticky and choppy in this area. Not really expecting any directional moves. Look for the sideways range to continue between 410 and 430. Next up, crude oil prices continuing with some more downside last week. We did see that prior week finishing with a nice big break here on Friday. Nice little bounce here on Monday just after the market digested that news before seeing more sell-off here into the end of the week. We did roll over here into this December contract here on Friday, but at the moment we do have a looking like this market is going to settle into a nice downtrend. We did see a nice sell-off there on Friday before rallying back up and finishing up there right around 57.25. This market has seen a breakdown here from 63 all the way down to 56 over the last 2 weeks here. So big break here by the bears has this market kind of pushed down here into oversold conditions. Nice little response here by the bulls on Friday, looking like this thing might just be a little bit oversold and could be due for a relief rally. Bids above 57.32 could have this thing pulling back up here into towards the $60 mark. Look for resistance to step in and this big picture downtrend to keep on rolling. However, if we aren't able to get back above 57.32 here early this week, look for this thing to keep on bleeding lower down here towards 55. Crude oil prices still have the downside or the wind favoring the bulls, the momentum favoring the bears, excuse me. We expect to see these crude oil prices continue to drift lower. In the near term here, we could see a little bit of a relief rally, but look for them to be sold into and these oil prices to keep on drifting down into the 50s. Next up, equity markets with a nice volatile week last week. We did see the prior Friday with a big breakdown there regarding any sort of tariff talk in China, the market responding very negatively to that. However, Trump walking that back early last weekend, and then just seeing a nice volatile week here as we did see the S&P trading in about a 200-point range between 65.70 and 67.70. Good swings back and forth all week long here. We can see nice volatile range, whipping highs and lows here. Not a whole lot of directional movement, just this market kind of digesting and rebalancing following that big breakdown there last Friday. At the moment here, if we do get some continued bids above 67.18, we did have a really good response here on Friday. Momentum definitely favoring the bulls as they did have a nice rally here, pushing up into the high here on Friday, finishing the day there near the highs on Friday. We should see them take that momentum above 67.18 and start rallying back towards these all-time highs. This big picture uptrend remains intact, looking like we're seeing some good support. Just increased volatility, though, here in between these moving averages. This market still remains very strong, very healthy environment for stocks, and we should see higher prices continue. Just have to wait and see how the market continues to respond to any more trade talk. But at the moment, looking like the bulls are continuing to support this market. Good response here last week as they continue to defend that prior Friday's lows and that 50-day moving average. Things are looking pretty healthy here for the bulls. Look for the upside to carry into next week and this market to turn around and start heading back towards those all-time highs. Nasdaq, also very good response here on Friday. All week long trading inside that prior Friday's range. Same thing with the Dow. Each of our major indexes all finding good support down here near the 50. Just seeing some wide ranges here after digesting the big news. At the moment, looking like this market should turn around and head back towards those all-time highs. Things are looking good for the equity markets. And at the moment here, with how we responded here from this tariff talk here on Friday, is a pretty good sign showing just the strength of this market. That's one thing that we are kind of looking forward to in this cattle market with that big break here regarding those comments coming out of the White House. We do expect to see this market respond in a similar way to as those equity indexes did. Look for that volatility to be elevated here a little bit while it kind of balances out and finds a good balance point. But we should see this market kind of turn around and head back towards those all-time highs as long as there's no other breaking news or developments regarding any sort of deals that could negatively affect this thing. So just be on the lookout for more volatility this week. Slow play it, and we'll wait and see how what opportunities wait for us as we move into week 42. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll catch you guys tomorrow night for closing comments.